Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another Axel 72 video, and in today's video I'm going to be giving my reaction to basically the world title action from this weekend, being of course Xander Zayas, Jorge Garcia Perez, Bruce Carrington, Matthias Hayter, and Claressa Shields, Laney Daniels. And so if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Like the video if you do indeed like the video, and feel free to join the Patreon as well. Support has been really good so far, and I really appreciate everybody who has joined. It really does support the channel. You can request any sort of combat related content and I will try my best to do it. The link is in the description. Thank you very much. So yeah, we'll start off by talking about Xander Zayas. Of course, he won via unanimous decision to become WBO Super Welterweight World Champion, and I mean, in general, it was a pretty solid shutout performance, and it was a dominating performance. I mean, I kind of saw this coming, and I suppose before we get into talking about the fight, I did want to say this has been a very good week of picks for me. I've gotten them all right in, who's going to win out of all the picks in which I've done this week. So again, just wanted to flex it out there a little bit. But yeah, so for this fight, Zayas, I mean, he said it in his post-fight interview, he worked off his jab very well. I think he showed good head movement, good footwork, and he worked well with the angles. It was definitely, at times, a bit of a nice, slick performance. He did what he had to do. He showed his size and his power, and basically did what Conwell couldn't do. He was able to push him back, and Garcia came on strong early, maybe tested the chin of Zayas a little bit at times, but for the most part was throwing lazy shots and was made to miss wide and clumsily. He was coming in with quite a unique kind of jab, which was very just wasteful, and again, like I say, just made him look quite poor and clumsy and a bit novicey to an extent. Zayas really showed his technical ability was superior, which yet again I was expecting and was kind of what you wanted to see. I think Garcia came in confident, which was an interesting thing because of course he was coming off a good performance, and that's why he started off so strong. But again, like I say, that confidence was shifted, and I think within the first 5 rounds, anything after that was just Zayas comfortably being able to go through and pretty much do what he wanted and showcase, like I say, that speed, that ability was there, just that higher level above. And yes, that wasn't a supremely tough test against Garcia. I mean, I've commented on this in my prediction video. Top Rank like to try and get their fighters seemingly at the moment in positions to get a world title and then go down the easiest route of getting them a world title. And whenever one becomes available, then they go and shoot, then they go and actually give their fighters that opportunity. I mean, in recent times, of course, Zayas Garcia here, but then also Keyshawn Davis against Barinchik. Again, like I say, a bit of an easier option to make him a world champion compared to the other fights in which he could have had for the belt at that point in the division for Keyshawn. So like I say, it was a good, solid performance. I don't think it's something in which you can really go off and think he's going to be a long reigning Puerto Rican world champion, because of course he's flying the flag for Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico really have not had the highest of level of world champion contenders as of recent. I think there definitely is some talent coming through, and I mean, Zayas at the moment is, he's still so young, so he still can have time to develop, and maybe he'll prove me wrong and maybe he'll go on to be a really dominating champion. But I just think there's definitely tougher tests out there, which will be interesting to see when when he gets put in with them and how he can deal with that, because he might not get put into them for a while, and he might be able to build a bit of a resume as a world champion. But I think His Excellency will probably get involved at some point and put him in against a top name. And I mean, he did call out Sebastian Fundora. Of course, he was the person who basically had to vacate the title because of Zayas knocking on the door, because Fundora wanted to fight Tim Tszyu instead. So he said that he's ready for December for a fight. So maybe that could happen. I mean, I'm not entirely sure that would happen next. Again, in my opinion, I feel like he probably does need another another kind of warm-up fight to an extent, or a voluntary defense, I suppose, to an extent, before he can get pushed along too much. But there's still definitely some good voluntary defenses out there in which really could test Xander Zayas. But again, youngest world champion now in boxing, and you could tell how much it meant for him. And like I say, he was really reaching out to the Puerto Rican fans who really stayed out to listen to him at the end of the fight, which was quite a respectful thing. I think a lot of, from what I've seen at events that I've been to in the UK, even if it's a world title fight, a lot of the fans kind of just leave right after the fight's finished, and they don't really hear what the fighter has to say, and often you can't even hear what they're saying because the mic quality is so bad in the actual arena. But it seemed like, there was interactions with the fans. He was speaking Puerto Rican. Again, with the Shushu Carrington interview after the fight, he was getting the crowd involved. And, they really stayed out to listen to him after the fight, which was, showed a good level of respect. And I really was, enjoying to see that. And again, like I say, to speak about Bruce Carrington a bit more, of course, he won via unanimous decision versus Matthias Heiter. A comfortable win for him to become WBC Interim World Featherweight Champion. His stock, I don't entirely know if it would have gone up after this performance, just because it pretty much showcased all what we already know from Bruce Carrington. It didn't really showcase much of an improvement, but again, Carrington is fighting at such a great skill level, it's difficult for him to show them improvements. But his stock definitely would have grown more, of course, if he'd gone out there and gotten a knockout. And that's definitely what would have excited the fans to really get involved with him and really try and push him to a world title opportunity. But maybe the champions may be more willing to give him a fight now that he didn't knock out somebody like a Matthias Heiter, who came on tough in the first couple rounds, but then afterwards, you could see that there was a clear technical difference. And I mean, Carrington did well to be able to dominate. I mean, he spinned Heiter with ease and then was able to, get his timing down, get his accuracy down, was able to fight on the back foot comfortably and the front foot comfortably, and inevitably was just dominating that fight, like I said. And I mean, Carrington is with, he signed on as a Riyadh season ambassador from what I can remember. So again, fights might be there ready waiting for him with His Excellency getting involved. Possibly that could happen, but I mean, he did call out all the champions. He focused in on Espinoza, who of course was also in the arena with him, and kind of pointed to him. The camera came on Espinoza. I would have liked to see maybe a little bit of a face-off between the two of them, but it's a shame that we didn't see that. He said about an October date. He said that Espinoza has an October date and there's no official opponent there. I think at this point in Espinoza's career, fighting somebody like a Carrington probably would be a good move. I mean, I think Espinoza is probably in the peak of his career at the moment. He's riding on quite a few highs. Of course, he's already caused an upset by beating Rebasi Ramirez twice, and so again, maybe that could be a fight. And the fact that Carrington, of course, isn't really been getting the knockouts. Of course, he wasn't able to knock out Heiter here. Maybe that might feel Espinoza, who is a big guy and yes, has been caught quite badly, but was able to survive that when he fought Rebase Ramirez the first time. I'm sure he won't be wanting to face a real power puncher. And, if he is to go on to beat Bruce Carrington, that would be a huge victory for Espinoza. And so, again, we'll have to wait and see what actually happens. It's difficult in the featherweight division at the moment because we've got Ray Vargas as a champion who isn't really fighting that much and is kind of holding up the belts. Then we've got Nick Ball, who's with Queensbury, who's got a fight with Sam Goodman. Then we've got Espinoza, who has this October date. But then we have Stephen Fulton as well, who's just a PBC fighter. And it's difficult to be able to get PBC fighters to be able to fight other fighters from other organisations still. So again, I don't know. I feel like the Espinoza fight probably is the easiest one to make for Carrington to get a world title shot, and I do think it is his time to be able to get that shot. And one other fight in which I wanted to talk about off that card was Emiliano Vargas' KO in round 1 versus Alexander Espinoza. He remained NABF super lightweight champion, and again, that was just a very brutal pull counter. I mean, it didn't even look like it. It just looked like it landed really clean. It didn't look like it had a tremendous amount of power, but Espinoza looked out of it in that fight. He literally just got slumped, and then you could see that his body was just not right at all after he was trying to get up, and that was quite a brutal knockout, to be honest. So fair play to Vargas. That was an upgrading opponent to an extent, and he shut him out there with ease. And hopefully him himself now will be able to get moved on a bit. Again, I'm not entirely sure what kind of route he'll be going down. It probably will be a few more matchups in which will be opponents maybe similar level, which again, if he's knocking him out in the first round, it shouldn't be. He should be moved on and progressed a bit better. But again, with Top Rank, it doesn't always seem to happen. But again, still, he went out there and put on an excellent performance. And then to shift over to another fight, which was, of course, last night as well, from dating this recording. Claressa Shields, she became undisputed heavyweight world champion, remained undisputed heavyweight world champion. She beat the light heavyweight world champion, one of them, in Lainey Daniels, comfortably via unanimous decision. In general, it was nice to see that the fans kind of did show out for Shields. I said that Shields was giving out 1,000 tickets to Detroit children, which was, seemed as a charitable thing. And I just don't know, is Claressa Shields just a massive name? Of course, I'm a UK, resident. I'm not somebody who is out there often, but is she a massive name? Because she doesn't seem to be getting always the biggest amount of numbers and attention from certain kind of fans online, but then when she actually goes out to fight, she always fights out in front of pretty big audiences. I mean, it seemed like it was 15,000 plus. So again, it's nothing phenomenal numbers wise. Of course, there is, bigger fights that would have been able to draw in a bigger fan base, but still, that's pretty decent. So again, the fans always seem to show out for Claressa Shields, and again, she wasn't able to get a stoppage, but she definitely did dominate. I think this on paper and probably did deliver to be the toughest test at the heavier weight for Claressa Shields so far. Is that saying much? Not really, because you look at the other fights in which she's had at this heavier weight, you look at Lepage Joannis, you look at Daniela Perkins, neither of them have really been that tough a test at all. So, Daniels caused not really problems to Shields, but frustrations a little bit at times. Yeah, a little bit. She moved quite well, Daniels, and I knew that that was something in which she had, available to her. She was able to move well, and you could see that she was enjoying herself early on. And I mean, she's always somebody who's going around smiling a lot, Daniels, and things like that. So you could tell that she was just, really trying to enjoy the moment and soak it in. And I mean, she was very much running around quite early on. There was a couple times in which she basically did a full lap of the ring within like 5 seconds and without trying to get hit. It was interesting to see, but there was a few times in which she tried to throw and stop, but anytime she did that, Shields just hurt her. Shields was pretty much just allowed to go on the front foot from the early rounds to the mid rounds, and like I say, anytime that Daniels went to throw, it was pretty much a comfortable showing for Shields to be able to just dominate her in that point, and then Daniels had to go back to running again. Shields did slow down. Daniels definitely going to the body a lot, and Daniels was very tired. You could see going into the latter point of the fight. You could see that there really wasn't much onto Daniel's shots. Again, like I say, going into the later points of the fight, Shields allowed Daniels to get onto the front foot and allowed the fight to just be Shields on the back foot, kind of Philly shelling up. And any shots in which Daniel actually went to throw didn't really come with any sort of intent at all. And again, this was meant to be a heavyweight fight, but it kind of did look like two, middleweights to an extent just going around. It didn't look like either of them were really hitting with tremendous amounts of power. And again, Shields winning via unanimous decision, but not knocking out an opponent, which, I suppose she doesn't have to do if she wins so comfortably, but it still would have been nice to see. You could tell that the aggression and frustration is there whenever she doesn't land a shot, and again, like I say, it would have been nice to see her go out there and actually be able to get a knockout. But Daniels is tough, you got to give her that, and I think she showed her toughness, and the fact that she was still trying to come forward even though she could tell, she was tired. And again, like I say, there really wasn't much behind the shots later on. you still got to respect that she carried on trying to come forwards. But for Claressa Shields now, I mean, she's become undisputed at heavyweight. Is she going to try and become undisputed at light heavyweight? Possibly. She did a face-off with Sheikha Neely, who was meant to fight this week, but her fight got called off. So again, maybe that something like that could happen. Probably that what might happen next. It wouldn't surprise me. I know that Layla Ali said that she'd want to fight Claressa Shields. That actually would be a big fight, and that probably would sell well. And I would be more interested to that, in my opinion. But again, is that just talk? Will that actually happen? I'm not entirely sure. And at the same time, if that doesn't happen and a Sheikha Neely one happens instead, it will probably be similar to how this fight has just gone with Lainey Daniels. And again, it won't incredibly excite the fans. I'm sure the fans are kind of really wanting to see a bit more out of Claressa Shields at the moment, because she is still in the prime of her career, and it's not like she's wasting it because she's defending her world titles, but she really could be in there still with better opponents. And then, again, like I say, that would entice the fans a bit more. So, it's just an interesting route. I've touched upon this a couple of times in which she's going down at the moment, Claressa Shields. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you did, like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.